Well, hello everybody. Today we welcome you to our strategic IP webinar with Richmond Chamber of Commerce and of course Minesoft, who are our experts on this subject. Firstly, a very, very short introduction about the Chamber of Commerce. So an invitation to you all to join the Richmond Chamber of Commerce network affiliated to LCCI, which is the London Chamber of Commerce and Industry. So add your perspectives to our network. We are the voice of business after all. And here we have business leaders from across the UK and other leaders from other sectors, of course. So promote your businesses and charities to over 40 million global press views. So we have weekly, daily actually press coverage. So that's well worth joining in with. We also have mentoring, training, representational and CSR services, and one-to-one advice, professional advice, legal, financial, that kind of thing, international trade. And of course, we have a very prestigious Richmond Business Awards seen by all the leaders across the borough and around the region. And you can enter, sponsor, attend, and go to, email us at richmondchamber@gmail.com or go to our website, richmondchamberofcommerce.co.uk, and that is it. So we now into the principal part of our webinar. It's 45 minutes, and we welcome Minesoft's Caitlin O'Neill. She's digital marketing and support for Minesoft. And Mia Rasmussen, who is head of support and training. So I thank you both for sharing your deep, broad knowledge today. And now over to Caitlin. So over to you.
Thank you, Anne. Good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining Mia and myself today. So in today's webinar, we will be exploring ways to enhance your company's success through strategic management of patents. So before we dive into this topic, I will first share a little bit about our company. So Minesoft delivers digital patent research solutions to top innovative companies, academic institutions, and SMEs around the world. We help R&D professionals, legal professionals, and senior business decision makers, among others, navigate a wealth of technical and competitive intelligence hidden in lengthy patent documents. So what exactly is a patent? A patent is a form of intellectual property. So patent documents are legal contracts that protect ownership of an invention or inventive process. They are also detailed technical guides for developing new innovations. If you or your business own patents or operating in an innovative industry, you can benefit from utilizing patent data for making business decisions. Patents help businesses gain market share by protecting a product. Patent data can help to inform market risks and areas for growth. And today we will uncover some of the strategic aspects of managing patenting activity and patent data for success. So in this webinar, we will discuss how thoughtful management and use of patents can enhance a company's success in three broad ways. First, by protecting entire technology areas or specific products for market advantage. Second, by contributing to the financial bottom line through trade, licensing, and/or acquisitions. And third, by supporting innovation cycles through the awareness of IP knowledge throughout an organization. We will conclude today's presentation with a Q&A session with my colleague, Mia Rasmussen, who is the head of support and training at Minesoft. And we will happily answer any questions you have about Minesoft solutions or any other topics we cover today. So let's dive into the first method of achieving success with patents through protection. The key benefit of owning a patent is for a company to have a period of monopoly on their invention. Legal protection allows the owner to enforce their rights by preventing competitors from copying the product. The publication of a patent can also deter competitors from entering the same technology area. We will start by looking at the popular patenting technique employed by leading technology companies called patent packing. Then we will consider an open patent strategy used especially in the healthcare industry that facilitates more trade and cross-development of solutions. So patent packing is a popular patenting approach adopted in the high-tech digital device area. This process involves applying for technical and non-technical protection for every possible minor invention to block an entire technology space. This is quickly becoming a dominant practice for a few leading companies and is consequently changing the nature of the competitive IP game in these industries. The possibility to shut out competitors from an entire technology space is attractive for these highly competitive tech giants. Managers of the companies employing this tactic need to be well informed of the cost of patent packing. The cost of applying for and maintaining a patent is expensive. Applicants need to consider that there are renewal fees to maintain patent protection, and there may be hidden legal costs to impose patent rights on another party or defend patent rights from an unwanted claim. On the opposite side, there are also invisible costs to consider when choosing not to patent specific aspects of inventions. Leaving a technology unprotected could make you vulnerable to competitors swooping in and approaching on your technology area. These invisible costs, or the value of deterring competitors from pursuing related inventions, is difficult to measure. It requires technical skills and broad market knowledge to uncover the real value of the deterrent effect from a patent. Managers also need to know when to pursue legal action and when to withhold. This can be tricky and delicate balance. On one hand, an invention or inventive process is rightfully protected by a patent. However, managers also need to be aware of the cost of litigation proceedings, especially when pursuing multiple patent infringers, and the possible damage to the company's reputation. So what are the downsides of patent packing? The protection of a whole technology area can be lucrative, but in some industries, there is an ethical aspect to consider. For example, in the healthcare industry, fierce patent protection around a new life-saving treatment or drug is likely to be negatively perceived in the wider industry. In recent news, global political leaders have been debating the temporary waiving of COVID-19 vaccination patents. As you can probably imagine, there are very complex considerations from each side of the debate. The patent waiver proposal was presented by India and South Africa at the World Trade Organization in October 2020. This document requested a temporary suspension of rules around patent rights for COVID-19 vaccines and related medical equipment, including health products and technologies such as diagnostics, therapeutics, materials, or components, arguing that waiving such patents would allow more countries to manufacture much-needed COVID-19 doses, especially in low or middle-income countries. WHO estimated that as of the 5th of May, 80% of the more than 1.1 billion doses of vaccine that had been administered went to high and upper middle income countries, with just 0.3% administered in low income countries. The removal of patent enforcement for these life-saving solutions could stimulate collaboration in further research and development, and will increase the distribution of COVID-19 vaccines in a more environmentally sustainable and equal way, since manufacturing and allocation can be centralized in marginalized nations. Over 100 official leaders around the world expressed their support of the COVID patent initiative, including US President Biden, French President Macron, and Russian President Putin. Also, many IP academics from leading universities around the world signed an open letter in support of the waiver proposal. However, the World Bank, European Union, and leading COVID-19 manufacturing countries, including the UK, Switzerland, and Japan, have opposed the initiative, alongside, as you can expect, many pharmaceutical companies. Former Chancellor of Germany, Angela Merkel, said in a statement, "The limiting factor when it comes to vaccine production are production capacities and the high quality standards, not the patents. The protection of intellectual property is a source of innovation and it must remain so in the future." Likewise, representatives from the pharmaceutical industry argue that patents are not the blockers of equal vaccine distribution and speed of manufacturing. They explain that temporarily waiving patents would conversely lead to disruption in manufacturing and distribution, as more parties will be fighting for the same set of in-demand resources needed to develop these vaccines. This could compromise public safety, as it is likely more counterfeit vaccines will enter production. Many argue that handing out vaccine recipes in the form of free-to-use intellectual property does not address the real cause of unfair vaccine distribution, namely trade barriers, bottlenecks in supply chains, and scarcity of raw materials and ingredients, and the unwillingness of richer countries to start sharing doses with poorer countries. The future effects of waiving patents are unknown, but opposers to the initiative have pointed out the historically profit-influenced trends in the pharmaceutical industry that cannot be ignored. Undermining patent laws in the face of global health crises could unintentionally reduce preparedness for any future health emergencies. According to published research from the Center of Research Innovation in Biotechnology at Washington University in St. Louis, the number of companies performing research and development on novel vaccines has decreased, with comparatively few companies remaining actively engaged in the discovery of vaccines against pathogens. These declines reflect neither a victory in our war against long-standing nemesis, for example, pandemic forms of influenza, tuberculosis, or malaria, nor a lack of newly discovered microbes that can cause death and disease, for example, Ebola, Zika, and of course, coronaviruses such as SARS or MERS. Rather, the financial attraction, or lack thereof, of vaccines to the pharmaceutical industry pales in comparison with more lucrative markets, most notably cancer. Some argue that patents were essential to motivate pharmaceutical companies to act as quickly as they did to develop the COVID-19 vaccines. Taking away the incentive could be disastrous in the event of another pandemic. On the other hand, some believe that giving pharmaceutical companies a monopoly over vaccine production is unjust, especially given that several COVID-19 vaccines were publicly funded. This raises the question, should these pharmaceutical companies be protective of their patents, since in some cases, little of their own money was invested? Some smaller biotech companies, especially those previously involved in making messenger RNA immunotherapies, which is used in the Pfizer and BioNTech and the Moderna COVID-19 vaccine, support the waiver. They fear that once the flood of IP filed around this topic at the beginning of the pandemic are published, the mess of overlapping IP will lead to complication prosecution pathways and questions around filing dates and allowable claims, detracting from the real issue at hand. All this said, what are the alternative solutions to the uneven distribution of COVID-19 vaccines? Major COVID-19 vaccine makers and several countries with a surplus of jabs have made deals to contribute doses to the vaccine sharing initiative COVAX, managed by the World Health Organization. However, the number of vaccines distributed by COVAX so far has only been 87 million of the 2 billion doses they aim to deliver by the end of the year. It appears that donating countries still need encouragement to increase their contributions. At the same time, Pfizer and BioNTech, as well as Johnson & Johnson, have partnered with facilities in South Africa to manufacture their vaccines and distribute them across the continent. These deals provide a quick, efficient, and safe way to supply less developed nations with vaccines, as the companies can facilitate technology transfer and knowledge sharing in a controlled way. A final alternative is to implement compulsory licensing from COVID-19 vaccine patent owners. It is actually a right of any country that has granted a patent to a COVID-19 vaccine maker to issue a compulsory license to enable production by its own companies. However, the same issue that was seen in the late 1990s in the context of access to HIV medications appears here. Lower income countries can issue compulsory licenses to allow their domestic companies to manufacture the vaccines. But many of these countries don't have the production facility needed to do so. In any case, many drugs aren't even patented in these countries anyway. The issue with compulsory licenses is that the WTO's agreement of trade-related aspects of intellectual property, or TRIPS, limits compulsory licenses primarily to domestic production and use. This means countries cannot issue compulsory licenses to companies within their territories to produce products primarily for export. The COVID-19 patent waiver proposal attempts to solve this issue, but is perhaps broader than necessary. If compulsory licenses allowed countries a blanket license, including exporting abilities, then more countries could get involved with manufacturing vaccines in a controlled way and distributing the outputs to those nations without the capability to manufacture themselves. Meanwhile, the rights holders will still get compensated and the patent system remains intact. So now we have explored the use case of patent packing and considered a more open innovation IP sharing approach to patent success. Another way to strategically utilize patents for business success is by making the most of what you already own. A lot of business is buying and selling. Though IP is not often visible, the same idea can be applied to commercializing these intangible assets. We will show you how analyzing data in a patent database like Minesoft's PatBase can support senior managers and business professionals make informed decisions about licensing and selling patents. These actions directly contribute to driving profits to the company's bottom line. Detailed analysis of patent portfolios can also inform mergers and acquisitions, opportunities and risks. So as we touched on the COVID-19 vaccine considerations, licensing can be a lucrative strategy for patent owners. The International Monetary Fund, IMF, estimates that the global licensing market has been rising rapidly since 2003 and was valued at around $426 billion in 2018. This estimate includes licensing of other forms of IP, including trademarks and copyrighted works. Licensing is a way to engage in commercialization activities by forming alliances rather than hoarding IP as a defense mechanism. One company that has benefited greatly from open innovation strategy is IBM. In the 90s, IBM conducted an aggressive IP effort and boosted annual patent licensing royalties by 3,300%, from $30 million in 1990 to nearly $1 billion in 2000. This $1 billion per year, it should be largely noted, is free cash flow. That money goes straight to the bottom line. Since then, IBM has generated $1 billion or more in annual IP revenue in most years. In 2019 and 2020, they generated about $600 million per year in direct income, though this decline mirrors the decline in overall company revenue. It is not clear at this time if the decline in IP revenues is due to a change in IBM's strategy or brought on by external factors. Though what we can learn from IBM's example is that IP can be licensed to contribute large sums directly to the bottom line if done correctly. Part of their licensing arrangement also includes cross-licensing patents with their competitor Dell, a deal that was worth $16 billion alone. Cross-licensing turns these competitors into each other's customers, allowing each to benefit from IP that enabled them to reduce costs and increase sales, demonstrating that open innovation can sometimes be more lucrative than the purely protective strategy. When making strategic business decisions, analyzing your patent portfolio and the wider patent landscape can be valuable to determine the next best move. When considering in-licensing, patent research can tell you which competitors own technologies that you can benefit from, and which technologies are protected by your patents that your competitors may want. A full analysis of a patent portfolio or technology landscape using a commercial patent database like PatBase can drive R&D direction and influence mergers and acquisitions. When considering merger or acquisition targets, companies may look for synergies to combine. These can increase performance efficiency and reduce costs, as each company leverages off the other company's strengths. So recently, NVIDIA, the American technology company most known for its graphics processing units, GPU, acquired ARM, a large player in semiconductor technology. ARM's chips power over 95% of the world's smartphone market, as its primary business is licensing its IP. When evaluating a good acquisition or merger opportunity, part of that is considering the value of the company, including its intellectual property. So using PatBase analytics to analyze the technology scope of NVIDIA and ARM's IP portfolios, we can quickly see that they are very complementary. The combination of the two companies' IP portfolios will enable NVIDIA to become a computer processor powerhouse with technical applications in AI, autonomous driving, IoT devices, and more. In PatBase, patent portfolios can be compared based on various criteria, including jurisdiction coverage, classification groups, application velocity, etc. The graph shows the NVIDIA and ARM patent portfolios compared by the top 10 international patent classifications, IPC. These are examiner-given classification codes that represent the technologies disclosed in their patents. There is only a 47% similarity in technologies covered by the two companies' portfolios. However, as we can see in the chart, where NVIDIA in blue has many patents, ARM in red has fewer, and vice versa. This shows that with the acquisition of ARM and its IP, NVIDIA benefits from a leveling of its patent portfolio across its top technologies. Using PatBase analytics, we can quickly and easily compare two or more companies' patent portfolios by utilizing the inbuilt comparison tool. Start by running a search by an assignee to generate a result set of a company's full patent portfolio, then run an analysis on each set. PatBase Analytics v3 can analyze an unlimited number of patent records. So with just a few clicks, you can even compare up to 4 result sets and generate automatic comparison charts. So far, we have considered patents as a protection and trade strategy. We touched on how PatBase Analytics can be used to visualize patent data that can help underpin buying and selling decisions. Next, we will look at how connected digital patent information systems can support innovation cycles through IP awareness across an entire business. It is often up to the senior management team to underpin the importance of IP knowledge across the organization. Patents should be utilized for technical, sales, and marketing research and recovery of sunk investments in R&D. To develop a patent strategy, R&D professionals, in-house legal teams, and everyone in between must have the right solutions available to learn and drive further innovation. Performing a patent landscape report is a good place to start to get a better idea of the competitive market. This research report helps to assess risk by identifying where competitors are actively patenting, which is often the first indicator of activity in a technology area. Landscape reports can also help managers anticipate market and technology shifts, looking at which patent areas are being abandoned and which are being flooded with new applications. Part of a patent landscape report is developing patent data visualizations that supports clear communication between the IP team, R&D team, and C-suite. PatBase Analytics is a great tool for developing visual charts showing complex information in a simple way. Even those with no experience, reviewing pages of legal and technical jargon published in patent documents can easily read a PatBase Analytics chart to understand patent activity and trends. Another way to share patent insights is using a knowledge management system. A knowledge management system is an enterprise software solution dedicated to conveniently collect, store, and access information. For large multinational corporations with global operations, managing information storage is imperative for boosting efficiency. It ensures that valuable insights contributed internally can be accessed at any time. Information can be distributed effectively on a global scale, keeping teams updated and in the loop. A knowledge management system goes beyond email, which often tangles workflows in static, quickly outdated files. Senior managers can support IP understanding across the organization with a knowledge network like Minesoft's PatKM solution. This solution automatically alerts relevant users about newly published patents relevant to their work. They can then assign custom tags and categorizations to patent documents that make sense to their teams. For example, they might have internal product codes that they wish to assign to patents that relate to those products. Using PatKM, you can create a product code input field that can be populated by the IP team and will be searchable by the R&D, distribution, or even sales teams. Everyone can be signed up to review this information and analyze it however they need. We have customers in the green tech industry who utilize PAT-KM in their unique way to streamline patent knowledge sharing across multiple business units. One example is the Belgian materials technology group, Umicore, which specializes in clean technology. Their solutions include emission control catalysts, materials for rechargeable batteries and photovoltaics, and precious materials and recycling. Their mission to develop materials for a better life has been fundamental in their journey to become an industry leader in sustainability, ranking as the 7th most sustainable company in the world in 2019, according to an independent research report by Corporate Knights. R&D is a huge part of Umicore's business. Their average R&D expenditure is 7% of annual revenues, around 224 million euros, across their 15 technical sites around the world. Umicore has diverse user groups operating across borders, each with a specific set of IP needs. This posed a natural hurdle to IP sharing across the organization before the implementation of PAT-KM. They required a solution that centralized their patent insights and disseminated key information to the relevant people and teams. PAT-KM is a bespoke knowledge management system that delivered what Umicore needed in one package. Umicore worked with Minesoft's team of IT developers, customer support, and project managers over several months to develop, finalize, and train employees to use the customized solution. In the end, the IP knowledge management solution was a huge success within Umicore. IP awareness was up, enabling more teams and projects to benefit from this source of technical and market information. There was high acceptance and usage of the platform, indicating that the importance of IP was well communicated and received. And cooperation across the company increased as teams could now work remotely across international borders, overcoming siloed patent information storage and untraceable workflows. It was the senior business managers who noticed the problem that their company was facing and sought out the relevant IP solutions to improve collaboration and IP awareness across the organization. Management teams must drive and support efforts to embed IP knowledge and strategy within innovative companies like Umicore for successful IP awareness. So part of having a good command of IP knowledge is also knowing when to let go of underutilized patents in a process called portfolio pruning. Since patent protection requires annual renewal fees to maintain, it is crucial to have an up-to-date impression of patents under your organization's ownership that are no longer providing value. In a recent Minesoft webinar, one of our guest panelists, Chris Mason from Appleyard Lees, a leading UK patent law firm, shared an overview of his approach to portfolio pruning with his clients. He explained how he uses a 3-tier grading system to label all patents in clients' portfolio, with grade 1 patents being high value and 3 being low value patents that don't cover business interests and are not relevant to competitor interests. Appleyard Lees uses PatBase to analyze a patent's value based on a specific criteria, such as the number of patent citations, the scope of the claims, the size and age of the patent family, etc. These aspects of patent data can tell us a lot about the competitive market. For example, are competitors citing your patents? If yes, this suggests that the patent is still valuable because it may be blocking or deterring your competitors from entering a technology area where you have a valid patent. Broad scoping claims that sail through prosecution can also be highly valuable, as this means the claims cover and protect a wide concept. The size and age of a patent family can indicate to us if it's time to abandon a patent. If it has been around a long time, the patent may have completed its job of protecting a product in the market. Or if there are overlapping patents about the same invention, it may not be worth keeping all of them. The real industry effects of patent pruning are clear. Abandoning no longer valuable patents immediately cuts costs, opening potential opportunities to increase budgets in areas that drive business value. Consumer Product Corporation Kimberly-Clark has a continuous and rigorous annual portfolio planning process. When Kimberly-Clark developed its initial plan, a priority for them included a disciplined portfolio review. In their first year, the corporation eliminated over 10% of its portfolio and immediately saved an estimated $15 million. Yeah, $15 million US dollars. So we have now looked at several ways patent awareness can enhance business success in three main areas: through patent protection or open patent strategy, improving financial performance through the trade of IP, and directing innovation by supporting IP awareness across the whole company. So what are the risks of not paying attention to IP? We have just discussed how the underutilization of patents can lead to wasted resources, but an additional risk comes from competitors. Not understanding the patent landscape, your own patent portfolio, and what patents indicate about the competitive market trends can leave you at risk of being overtaken by a disruptive innovator or competitor pushing you out of a market. One of the most famous examples of a company that failed to utilize patent information to compete in their market is Kodak in the instant photography market. In 1975, Kodak launched a line of instant cameras and films that closely resembled Polaroid technology. Polaroid had already packed this technology space with patents, protecting its fast-growing instant camera business. Polaroid executives sued Kodak and won. So after a 14-year-long patent war in court, Kodak was eventually ordered to pay Polaroid $925 million in damages, was forced to shut down its $1.5 billion manufacturing plant, lay off 700 workers, and spend $500 million to buy back the 16 million instant cameras that it had sold to consumers. Legal fees cost Kodak an additional $100 million, and their decades-long R&D effort had to be written off as a total loss. Another more recent example is between UK company Dyson and US company Hoover. In 1999, Hoover was the leading vacuum cleaner brand. This was the year that Hoover launched its bagless vacuum cleaner, the Hoover Triple Vortex, to rival Dyson's innovative product that was sweeping the household cleaning market. Dyson filed a patent infringement lawsuit against Hoover for copying its dual cyclone cleaner. Subsequently, Hoover fired back with opposition to Dyson's patent, claiming that Dyson's product lacked design and originality. However, the High Court ruled Hoover guilty of infringing Dyson's patent. The deciding judge said, "It is very important to encourage inventors and small businesses to take out patents. This case shows that big companies who set out to steal somebody else's idea cannot get away with it." Hoover was forced to withdraw its infringing products from the market, costing the firm millions of dollars. Jill Smith, director of IP at Dyson, reflects on the company's patent journey, saying, "I think our patents and the court cases we've won enforcing them have been key in shaping the company. The benefit of Dyson's early patents was the establishment of a very clear market position. Our competitors learned through our early court cases they were not to be messed with, and certainly not ignored. We were a much smaller company at that time, and the strength of our patents enabled us to punch far above our weight. We can learn from these two examples by placing importance on our own IP knowledge and strategy. IP can potentially affect all industries, so it can be worthwhile for almost anyone to get researching and analysing." So to recap, who are we? Minesoft is a global patent solutions provider headquartered in the leafy Richmond upon Thames. Founded in 1996 by Anne and Ophir Chapman Daniel, the company now has offices in the UK, US, and Germany, with many international representatives dotted around the world. Minesoft hosts a whole suite of IP solutions for legal, R&D, and business professionals in top global corporations, SMEs, and academic institutions to derive a valuable competitive intelligence and market insights faster. We invite you to get in touch if you would like to trial any of our patent solutions for free. So we will now open the floor for the Q&A session.
Thank you so much. Caitlin, that was amazing, absolutely fascinating, and makes us aware of all those important points you've raised. We really must be alive to this. Now we have had a question. This is fascinating. If I may ask, what is the difference between patent packing and patent thickets? Does the latter, so patent packing, relate only for multiple patents for one product, and the former, does the latter thickets relate only for multiple patents for one product, and the former, patent packing, for patenting or patenting any aspects related to technology in question? So I wonder if you could answer that question. It's come from Alexander Blinsky.
Perfect. Thank you for the question. So it's Mia here.
Oh, hi, Mia Rasmussen, Head of Training at Minesoft. Thank you.
Thank you. So I'll try and answer it. So both of them can be for either just one individual product, or it could be for a lot of aspects around the product. So just for a bit of background around a patent on a product. So if we look at a smartphone as an example, it's not just one patent covering the smartphone itself, it's multiple patents. So it's both around the design, how the touchscreen works, how the interface works. So one single phone could have hundreds of patents. So when we talk about packaging or thickets, then it's around, do you patent broadly with the packaging? So say you go in with 100 different patents, so you kind of cover all aspects of the patent. And when you do packaging patents, or package your patents rather, they tend to not be as strong or as in-depth patents. So you write in the claims of the patents what exactly it covers. So depending on what strategy you choose, if you go like with the broader packaging or the thicketing, it depends on if you sort of want to broad patent all aspects of a phone, let's say, and even maybe covering more aspects than might be necessary initially. So it's more around the strategy point. Do you want to patent broadly, or do you want to be more specific in your product? Yeah. If that makes sense.
It does completely. And another question from the same gentleman: how to determine if patent or patent packing applies to the field of a vaccine development, and how to measure a level of patent packing in a particular field using Minesoft tools? That's from Alexander Blinsky.
Good question again. So I think you'd have to kind of compare different portfolios and see how much patent activity there is to establish if it's the sort of the packaging route they're choosing to go. So when you then look at a portfolio, like we saw in one of the slides in the webinar, we looked at different technology areas in for two different competitors. So if you were to look at just a competitor's patents and you had an idea like that they're trying to patent very broad, you'd then see the different technology areas. So in patents, we've got about 8 main groups of technology areas, which can then be further divided into subgroups. So let's say it's with vaccines, it could be, one of them could be injectable vaccines, one could be and oral administration vaccines, if they even exist. So if you look at the different technology areas being used by a specific company or assignee, you'd be able to establish if they're doing the broader route or the more kind of narrow route, if that makes sense. Yeah.
Yes. Another question. So we're going great guns here, from one of our members. So can you patent or license a procedure to do something? So he's a structural engineer and has developed some innovative ways of installing things on site, solving difficult engineering problems. Would these be suitable to be licensed? If so, how would we go about doing this?
Sure. So when it comes to patenting information, as most things you can patent, there's only a few things you can't patent, and that's you can't patent how to sort of perform things, if that makes sense. So you can't patent how to perform open heart surgery, as an example. So things that are of benefit to the majority of people, you can't patents in that sense, of the action of doing something. And you can't patent DNA, and you can't patent like flowers and kind of produce in that sense. So those are the only things you can't patent. So you wouldn't be able to license them either.
Right.
But yeah, if it's a structure you're trying to, so let's say you're kind of, you've found a new scaffolding system or something, you could
Yes.
patent the design of a scaffold if it's a brand new and innovative way of thinking.
I'm sure that answers Derek Mason's question. Thank you very much. Yeah, certainly worth exploring. And another one of our members is in the process of acquiring a company for a client, and he is targeting a company that has many patents. So how can Minesoft help? How would your PAT-based system help in verifying these patents?
Another brilliant question.
In other words, it's looking at a company that is being acquired and checking their patents.
Yeah, so it's part of kind of evaluating a patent portfolio. So in PAT-based, you can pull up an entire portfolio for the company you're trying to acquire. So a rule of thumb is a patent can't last longer than 20 years. So your maximum time of protection is 20 years. So if you're looking at the patent portfolio and it's all older patents, there's not a lot of value left in them. So maybe, let's say they were all filed in the early 2000s. So, they're nearly dead now. Patents are called dead or alive, depending on if they're still active or not. So you'd have to look at the age of the patent portfolio, which you can do in PAT-based with the dates. You'd have to look at the sort of the global activity. So each patent is also worth noting, it's not automatically a global protection. You have to decide which jurisdiction you want to protect the ideas or inventions. So if they only have patents in Japan, let's say, the patent portfolio might not be that valuable if that's not in the US or anywhere in Europe. So it's kind of looking at the age, the scope, the language scope, or jurisdiction scope, and also the different technology areas. So is it emerging technologies in the field, or is it technologies that are being replaced, really? So that can all be done in the PAT-based analytics platform.
Right, and it's something that would be attractive to an SME or a corporate. So I mean, I'm just wondering if it's an SME this client is targeting, would that be attractive for them to use PAT-based for that?
Definitely. Cool. So they could even go in and look at what are their competitors and the competitors of the company they're trying to acquire to see what's the activity there. So it's really valuable for the single players to SMEs to the large corporations.
Well, that's I hope that's answered Norman Jackson's question. Thank you very much, one of our members again. I also have a few questions here. What kind of categories can you set up in PAT-KM?
Sure. So PAT-KM is the knowledge management tool we've set up. So they're all fully customizable. So you can set up different categories either around business units. So let's say you're in clean energy company, as mentioned, Umicore here. You could set up units around all the solar energy or wind power and everything else, and then give access to different areas. You can set up date fields. So if you need reminders of, let's say in a year, something is about to expire, so you want to kind of investigate that area, you can set up node fields. So it's fully customizable according to how an organization needs to use this knowledge management system.
And does knowledge management allow for on-the-fly recategorization of records if you find that you maybe some of these may be mislabeled?
You can, yes. So you can do both on existing tags in the tool. You can change them, or if you come across a new patent that's for some reason not picked up in any other search, you can then manually add the tags that are valuable to the organization.
And can you expand on what litigation information is available within the PAT-based system, i.e. only US or global?
Sure. So yes, as we mentioned earlier, there's sometimes litigation around Hoover and Dyson had one, and so we've got global litigation information for people with access to DART's IP, where you can see all the court case, all the notes, and additional information. But as a standard, you'll have for US, comprehensive US information.
Right. And can you run reports on PatBase to track competitor activity, monthly, quarterly, whatever?
Yeah, you can run them either as automatic, we call them alerts. So you can set up like a search script on some of your competitors or even your own portfolio and see what's new in there. So it might be someone new that's citing your portfolio, sort of indicating they're interested in your innovative ideas. And they can be run either manually or automatically.
Oh, that's great. Yeah. Yes, depending.
Yeah.
How does PatBase help to clean assignee lists, for example, name variations, affiliated companies, merger, acquisitions, whatever?
So, well, a good question, actually. There's a few different options in there. So if we look at reassignment, so early on there was a gentleman asking, like, they're looking into merging another company or acquiring another company. So we would have that as part of a corporate tree within PatBase. So you can search what are all the subsidiaries, what are all the children of a specific company. We also list all the different variations a company might file a patent under. So typically companies would file in the language of the country they're filing in. So let's say Apple would file a patent in China, and they would then file with the Chinese variation of their name. So it might differ slightly to the English version of Apple, let's say. So in PatBase, you can then search both the original names, machine translated names, and also kind of the non-Latin aspects of it, which helps you find different variations of names.
How do you recommend sharing charts and graphs and including them with your written report?
Again, so there's a few different ways in PatBase. So we've seen the PatBase analytics, which there's a lot of different aspects of. You can do heat style maps, you can do linear graphs in there, and these can all either be exported to different file formats, or we can create links that'll share live links through to the graphs, which will then give further details, and you can include your own notes. Additionally, we can do export, so you can export to various file formats where you choose yourself which fields of a patent is relevant to the type of graph you want to share.
Okay, and is there a way to search the transactions behind the patent before its grant? For example, public pair.
Public pair, yeah. So again, just for those who are not too familiar with the whole patent process. So you first put in an application for a patent, and that's then published after 18 months, and then an examiner will go through the patent and see if it's not invalidating any other ideas in the market. And once they're happy with it, it goes into a granted document. So it's not until the patent is granted, your protection is there, it's always live, essentially. So there's a lot of legal status information behind the scenes, both in the whole process of reviewing patents and also notes from the examiners and the patent offices in each individual country you might file in. So all this data can be searched through PatBase, both through the local patent offices themselves, and there's also something called INPADOC, which is the European Patent Office, and their legal status terms that can be all fully searched in PatBase.
Thank you so much, Mia Rasmussen. I mean, we've learned so much today, and the key here is that IP has multifaceted strategic import in business, and we forget that at our peril, as you described so well and depicted very, very well for us all. So we need, as business people, to be mindful and give IP an important position, a strategic position in our businesses, and respect that. And we have I'm sure all appreciated that today, and I'm sure this conversation could continue maybe sometime next year to do something, an update on the value of IP I would certainly welcome that, and we will continue to welcome businesses from across London, as we're affiliated to London Chamber of Commerce and to the Minesoft community as well. And we thank you all so much for participating. Thank you, Caitlin O'Neill, for your insightful, very excellent presentation. Mia for responding to all our questions. We will be publishing this brilliant presentation on both our websites, the Minesoft website and also the Richmond Chamber of Commerce.co.uk, otherwise you'll go all over the world. We will be publishing it on our website, so do take a look at the information there, the presentation there. Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you, Tech Division, Mark Lilliman, for supporting this, this event, and thank you all for attending and participating. We really appreciate it, and we will be back. So thank you very much indeed. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Anne.
Thank you.